Fast forward, any come over channel your social media. So I'll say AGH Politics Avenue. Political stories are trending because making headlines. And the Jemre na yedi be exomo ewa. Nidi mnya humbraxi muse ene. Yedi di kanya stress. Ubi subscribe to the channel. Hit notification bell. Share na for front so answer into me. Nidi mama me on foul imra ye Chief Justice Torkonoo aswe after say Ecowas court dismiss an application na. Ghana has in so a high court and so a board application into go, so many reactions and about na cry and saka and say on one casa can't it's right nasa say and then the abeyan say obit me a pigeon in sat and was surrender said there be don't money Mahama it's also in Pimbima on my buying a mate. You couldn't fee na minso aquacobombra. Sabia son sebinyalo, and your Chief Justice in Kwana. We say in a Akuffo so many reactions about Menoka say, with a four so a transia or Moyan Simon Pensim. At this point in time, among remaining team
determined already. But to your earlier question as to whether as to the implications of what the High Court said, I think my colleague Penga attempted to respond to that easily by explaining that the moment she went to the Supreme Court on a human rights matter, that was a completely no-go. And it was not surprising that the Supreme Court threw her out because per our laws, the Supreme Court is not meant to determine human rights matters. It is for that reason that she came to the High Court substantially on the same relief that she saw at the Supreme Court. But unfortunately, the law is also that a matter that has been determined on cannot be determined in another court. So this is where the issue that you referred to earlier as an abuse of the court process emerged from. So it's like the two doors have been closed on her, but those are only the doors in respect of the human rights issues. So it means, in effect, she could always come back, except that whatever she comes back with cannot be couched relating human rights issues. It has to be couched differently to be able to, if you like, invoke the appropriate jurisdictions of the court that she may attempt to go to. And so these are options that are available to her on the table at this point. But outside of that, there may be great difficulty. Now, having said this, we need to recognize that whatever is playing out at this point should not be interpreted to mean that the committee is a robot seated there to do the bidding of the president. I would like to be very open-minded about the committee. I would like to believe that based on their credibility, they are going to look at matters with open-minded and fairness. And that they are not going to be mischievous, targeting the CJ simply because, and let's be reminded that simply because the Council of State found her guilty does not automatically mean that the committee would also find her incapable of continuing in her office and, as for that matter, recommend her removal. Let's not pretend about that.
All right.
It is arguably true that based on the political posture of the event unfolding, one could easily assume that the outcome is going to be adverse against her. But that would also mean that we do not even respect the members of the committee's intelligence, that they cannot see through right and wrong.
Yeah, interesting point there. Yeah, interesting point there about the composition of the committee itself. And Lawyer Martin People, let's look at the committee and its work so far. It's supposed to be in camera, but already the Embattled Chief Justice has cast, I should say, her verdict on, what she thinks about the composition of the committee and the kind of individuals who've been appointed there. Do you feel that that would taint perhaps whatever outcome we'll be seeing going forward? Lawyer Martin People, I'm asking about the composition of the committee and the concerns the Chief Justice has raised. Lawyer Justice Abdullah is pointing out clearly that we should not conclude that, of course, they would come out just as Lawyer Lawyer Akroma is pointing out that it will lead to one conclusion, that they would find the Chief Justice guilty. It could be otherwise. But the Chief Justice herself appears to have a challenge even with the composition of the committee.
Kofi, briefly, I was supposed to be off at this time. I have to run 1 minute.
Right.
What I said doesn't lead to the conclusion Lawyer Abdullah is reaching. No. We are citizens, right? We can also look at there's a court, in one word, the court of public opinion. So the court of public opinion holding a certain opinion doesn't mean that the court cannot do its work. So it's not an attack on the court.
Okay, we seem to have lost Lawyer Martin people there. Obviously, unfavorable network connections. But let me yield to you, Lawyer Akroma. The point you were raising earlier about what the possible outcome will be, the fact that it's going to be leading to one main conclusion. Lawyer Abdullah has a different position on that matter. He says that let's wait. At least you never know, something else could come out.
Lawyer Abdullah is entitled to his opinion, but sometimes you look at the processes leading to where we are now and then where we are, and you can make your own conclusions, and one will also be entitled to that. Look, if you carefully watch the process, and I'm not commenting on the merits of what has happened, never at all. First of all, you recall that the chairperson of the committee was challenged. The Chief Justice challenged the chairpersons of the committee's inclusion on the basis that even at the earlier matter, one of the matters that led to the petitions that we've had now, she sat on the matter with the learned Justice of the Supreme Court, Justice Gabriel Pwaman. She stated that. She challenged that a number of times and it didn't work out for her. And then also, curiously, the other Justice of the Supreme Court was there. About a few days before the committee's list came out, it was part of the panel that was supposed to look at the interlocutory application made by the Chief Justice. And curiously, he was absent. And 2 days after that, the list was out and his name was there. Very curiously. And I'm just leaving that. I'm not coming to any conclusion at all. Then look at the other members, persons of integrity, yes. But some of them you will know their political leaning by who they are. You just know their political leaning and all that. So I'm saying that if you look at the process, all the way through to the appointment of members of the committee and the personalities who are there, excellent persons in their own right and etc. But look at their political and ideological orientation. And you know that life is not run through a straitjacket.
Yeah, but you agree. You've been to the Supreme Court all the time. All these judges have their own political ideologies. You know that.
Yes, absolutely. They have their ideologies, and I know. I mean, if you read all the cases, look. Sometimes let's be very frank. The justices of the Supreme Court, they use the law to do their work all the time. They don't do politics when they are doing the law. But you see, they set out principles to achieve a certain result. And if you look at the justices, the majority of them, anytime there is a political issue before them, there is a way that each of them votes, and they go ahead to defend the position they are taking. Go and look at the various justices.
Yeah, but when you raise that point, many will challenge you to that, that what's before the committee now is not a political question, is it?
Yes, it may not be a political question, I agree with you. But I'm saying that there is a certain orientation that each judge has. And they are human beings. They are not angels who are seated high up in heaven. So they are human beings, and there's a certain orientation, each of them, an ideological orientation that they each have. And I'm saying if you look at the current composition, the circumstances surrounding the selection of the individuals, and the named individuals in their own right, I'm saying they are excellent personalities, but they have a certain leaning in their history. And that one is of public knowledge. You don't need to debate about it. So if you look at where everything has moved all the way till this time, the establishment of the prima facie case and etc. now has been brought to these people, and His Excellency the President has brought it to the committee. I am saying that without prejudice to any decision that they are going to take, I shudder to think about any decision to vindicate the Chief Justice. I shudder to think about it. And I am afraid I have to agree with what the learned Okujeto has said, the learned senior Okujeto has said, that in fact and indeed the road has come to an end.
What do you say to individuals who criticize the Chief Justice of fueling this perception that this is a political or a partisan matter before the committee? Look at her legal representation, for instance. It's been quite an interesting list. Two former, attorney generals, one of whom you've worked with. They are the ones representing her.
Okay, so before you come to that conclusion that you have stated, flip it the other way around. Who are the lawyers of the petitioners?
Yeah, but it doesn't take away my question. It's not a matter of conclusion. I'm asking about the perception.
Of the other side are renowned personalities who have represented the NDC in most cases all their lives. The only person there who may have done cases for both NDC and MPP is the learned Sadio Sorry. But even then, if you look at his posturing in the last few years and etc., you also find a certain leaning of him. Even though I can attest to the fact that he's had the opportunity to represent both sides in cases and etc. But what I'm saying is that if you look at both sides, if you look at what the CJ, those who are representing the CJ, and look at those who are representing the other side, then clearly, even though it's a contest of legal ideas, you can come to the conclusion there is a contestation of politics. You can come to that conclusion on the basis of the representation that we have. And it will be within your own right to do so. And that's why I am saying that on the basis of all that and putting all that together, along with all the pieces of evidence and the happenings all the way to the formation of the committee, one result only is expected.
But just to put on record that Oliver Bawumia has never said he's been a member of the NDC.
No, but my brother, there are two different things. Professing to be a member and not professing to be a member by your conduct and actions, you are a member.
Yeah, but you're forcing him. You're forcing him to join that family.
There is no scintilla of evidence to show that Oliver Bawumia has had any sympathies or supported the New Patriotic Party either by words or by actions.
And we do not have any evidence to say that Bawumia is a member of the NDC.
I'm saying that by his actions and sometimes his utterances, he leans towards that party. There's no dispute about it. And we should not, one of the problems that we have as a nation is that we play the ostrich. When the obvious is there, we want to debate. It's not debatable. By conduct and by utterances, I can come to the conclusion that Oliver Bawumia is NDC. I'm not afraid at all to come to that conclusion. He's a fine brain. I mean, one of the fine young legal brains, no doubt about it. But there's no doubt about the fact also that his conduct by way of utterances and actions show that he leans towards the NDC and not the NPP. So let me take all that into consideration. Yeah. If you take that all that into consideration, one will come to the conclusion that yes, both political parties have representation and interest in the matter with respect to the CJ and then the petitioners for that matter. So we are set to arrive at a decision, even though it was not supposed to be political. People will read political meanings into it all in the end because of the circumstances of the matter as a whole. Right.
Justice Abdullahi, how do we douse that flame of partisanship that may creep into the judiciary based on the observations we're making now?
Unfortunately, we are already here, and but we can naturally work towards gradual removal of the partisan inroads into the judiciary by finding a better means of appointing members of the Superior Court, such that their heads could also be appointed from within rather than from the executive. So long as the executive remains in charge of appointment of the Superior Court judges, I think we can never move away from this posture and this position. Let's remember that the entire appointment to the Superior Court, just for the purpose of our listeners, when we talk about Superior Court, we mean from the High Court, the Court of Appeal, all the way to the Supreme Court. All the appointments are made by the president, and the president makes these appointments mostly not based on competence, but based on other factors that may obviously be political in nature. And so typically you would not find that a person is being appointed to the judiciary on the basis of his competence. Few times, yes, other people make the list that they make those lists purely because of their competence. But that is not the basis for the appointment. Let's remember that. And so my position is that if we could allow and institute a new measure that would enable appointments to the Superior Court to be handled outside of the executive and indeed outside of the political realm, I think we would have achieved the best for our republic. And having said that, I think that same argument goes for most of our political and indeed, if you like, constitutional bodies. Because most of our constitutional bodies suffer from these same political interferences. And political interferences have gone against all of us in a lot of ways. In fact, it's possibly part of the reasons why we have, institutional inertia sometimes when we need to make headway, but because of political interest, we are unable to take the appropriate decisions to move our country forward. And we are always backwards for a lot of reasons. And so, yes, we have the Judicial Council, and that council can be, for instance, empowered to take charge of...
in some jurisdictions, it's based on elections.
Hello? Can you please...
In some jurisdictions, it's based on elections.
Indeed, in some countries, elections are held to elect the members. I think just a couple of weeks ago, one of the Southern American countries elected his members of the judiciary. And it was a beautiful thing. The people themselves determine how these appointments are made. And so the person does not owe, particularly when if in the light of our constitution, that says that justice really rests with the people of Ghana. And it is administered in the name of the Republic for all of us. And so for a country that has that kind of constitutional provision, it's a constitutional provision that underlies the bedrock of the Constitution and indeed the judiciary. Unfortunately, when it comes to the appointment, we are completely removed from it. And then someone else who is politically colored does the appointment. And naturally, when that person does it, he will do it to favor his lineage, as my brother Prenga calls it. And so long as we keep having that, I don't think this spectacle of having the two political parties bantering before in the arena would be something of the past. Not until we grew maturely into a better and a well-grounded democracy.
Okay, let me give the final word to you, Dindiok Penka. Your points as we wrap up this conversation.
Well, bro, I will continue to say, and I repeat without any shred of doubt, that we have reached the end of the road almost. And all we need to do is to keep our fingers crossed. But the danger, I have said time and again, is that we should be mindful, because precedence is a very dangerous monster that can eat up a society. Whatever happens today, somebody may stand on top of the roof and clap that the process is being followed. When the tables turn, the same person will have adverse statements to make. Let's hasten slowly and allow the independent institution like the judiciary, the third arm of government, to function without interference. When we politicize it and take decisions that will satisfy us today, posterity will live to judge all of us. Because this will be the very first time in our recent...
And the way any Samahoro team course watch channel so that's so Jimmy Awahara said so body in the Dumbi Aluminium, among Remy, not young small or Castle.